Okay, hello. I'm Wesley, and this is Try Friendship of Madness. Beat the game, no duping. Let's get going. So, I'm going to immediately do a glitch. This is called save warping. I mash quick save and quick load very quickly, and then the game, what we think is happening is that the game is overriding the save so quickly that it gets kind of confused and forgets where you're supposed to be. And so it just sends you to a default location somewhere in the level instead, and in a couple of levels that's useful. In the first level it saves about a minute, and this one it saves maybe 20 or 30 seconds. And we'll do it in one more level later on. It'll only save about 10 seconds there, but it's still worth doing. So now this level introduces the kind of main goal of the game for each level, where you have to collect these 3 red fox statues and then place them on the altar. When you do that, then a portal to the next level opens. So we don't have the main mechanic of the game yet, so this is all just some basic platforming. It's just about using crates, and I'm going to learn about switches on the next section. So also, this level starts to try and train you to do some interesting exploration of the level. Getting you up here on this weird walkway that's up way high and into the rafters of this next room. It's a very cleverly designed tutorial level. So, a nice little puzzle of which switches do you hit, but it's always the same. You have to hit them to get this bridge in place so you can just run right across. Now, here's the final statue. It's a little awkward to jump up and grab that and get away quickly, but that went pretty well. And now we just run back to the altar and we'll be on our way. What I'm going to do is after I place all 3 of them, I'm going to quick save and quick load. And then that makes the altar portal appear a couple seconds faster. I think it's about 2 seconds per level. So that'll save about 30 seconds throughout the entire run. I'm going to go for a trick here. I might not get it. I didn't. You can get on that railing and jump off the end of it and grab onto that platform and grab that statue. You're not supposed to be able to get it yet. It's supposed to be that you wrap back around at the end of the level to come and get it. But you can get it early there, and it saves, I think, about 15 seconds to do that. It's a very cool strat, but it's also very difficult. It's probably, out of all of the platforming challenges in the game, it is by far the hardest. And it's definitely one of the least consistent strats in the game, but you can go for it and not lose too much time if you don't get it, so it's not a big deal. Alright, so we've got the try, so we can place triangles. This is the main mechanic of the game. We're immediately going to use it to clip through walls. Oh, maybe. I didn't get it. Okay, so I have these specific lineups to do, but it's a little hard because the cursor is just a big circle. So it can be a little difficult to place things precisely. I clip through that wall, and that saves, I don't know, 20 seconds, something like that, maybe more. But we're on our way. So if we had gotten that strat at the start, we would go straight to the altar now. But as we missed it, we have to backtrack a little bit. But it's not too far away. Oh, there it is. That's how you're supposed to do it, with building a ramp up to get it. And in that doorway on the left, there's actually a teleporter to take you right to the altar. But getting to that and running up the stairs takes literally the same amount of time. So it doesn't really matter if you do one or the other. Alright. This is another level where first thing we're going to do is clip through a wall. This time though, there's this yellow barrier here blocking our way. And yellow barriers we just can't clip through. Luckily, this one is pretty small, so we just clip around it instead. And hit that switch to get rid of the yellow barriers. And then come over here, and there's one of the red statues back here. Build some ramps to get through here quickly. You can see me drawing them on the ground, like over here. It's because this ledge is just tall enough to where it slows your momentum down as you run over it. So we build these triangles there because nothing else to do, and it saves, you know, a tenth of a second or whatever. We got good RNG in that hallway because the monk can randomly walk around and get in your way, but he didn't, so that was nice of him. So got that second statue just laying on the ground and fell off the back of a truck, I guess. And there's the final statue, so now we're just on our way to the altar. This next room is deceptively difficult. At least I've had trouble with it. It looks like it's a bunch of really easy platforming, but if you fall here, it loses a ton of time just because of how far you have to backtrack to climb back up. In later levels, it'll be easier if we miss a jump and fall. Have to climb back up, but we don't have all the mechanics available to us yet. Ooh, that was actually kind of a close call. That's a little bit of a risky jump. It's not too difficult, but if you miss it, you fall all the way down to the beginning of the level, and you don't want to do that. Alright, Chapter 5, Overcome the Limitations. This one is where we'll get the next major mechanic in the game. There are 3 mechanics. First is just placing triangles. The second one is being able to walk on them. I'm going to do my best to explain it. That switch lowered some yellow barriers, which makes traversing the level much easier. So, okay, the thing with walking on triangles. Basically, when I put my feet on a triangle now, it will adjust my gravity to be towards the triangle. So it lets me do things like this and walk up the wall, even though the gravity of the room is still to the floor. So as long as I'm standing on a triangle, I can defy gravity. Hopefully that made sense. It's a little bit of a tricky thing to explain. Hopefully seeing it helps explain it as well. When you're not standing on a triangle, there is a grace period. So like when you run off of a triangle, there's about a quarter of a second, I think it is, grace period where it'll wait before changing your gravity. So you could potentially try and get back on the triangle. Do some Wile E. Coyote cartoon, wave my arms around in the air and hope to get back to safe ground before falling. And do a little box puzzle here. There's actually a way to skip this puzzle, but it's about 1 second slower than just doing the puzzle quickly. So I just do the puzzle quickly. And hopefully this box doesn't fall off that switch. If it does, the gates close and sometimes trap me back there. But you can just clip on out, so it's not that big a deal, but it is a 5 or 10 second time loss. Okay. Alright, that was a pretty solid chapter. Chapter 6, yet another one where we're going to just immediately clip out of bounds and skip about a third of the level. This level is probably one of my favorite in the game to do because there are a lot of very big skips in it. So now we're going to be out of bounds between these 2 sections. And if we just build upwards here, we can climb up to the second level of the chapter, and hey look, a statue. Now, we can just climb on up out of here. And then the second statue, it's over here. It's this one, we don't have any like good skips for it. It is technically possible to clip out of bounds and get it without like coming and hitting this switch or doing anything, but it's very, very slow to do. So there's not really a good way to do it. So we just have to do this the intended way. Gotta climb up and get it. Part of the problem is that the statue is inside this like big floating cylinder in the center of this room, as you'll see. And so it's just difficult to get to from out of bounds. Okay, there it is. Now jump back down, and one of the fun little surprises in this game is when you backtrack through this next room, the gravity flips for some reason. And so now there's different platforming on the way out. Some fun little jumping there. I'm just gonna climb back up to the doorway. Okay, and now time for a trick called the 1/10 jump. You jump there, it saves 1/10 of a second compared to running around. And if you fail that jump, then you just reset the run because it's embarrassing. Now here's the second major skip in this level. Hopefully I can get this clip first try. It's a little difficult because the textures on the walls are not particularly helpful. That was bad. So I just kind of have to estimate where the points go. There we go, it's much better. So what you saw me there when I had to load the save was that I got a fling, which sometimes, depending on the triangle you place to clip out, sometimes it'll just fling you out of bounds, and occasionally that is useful, but for the most part it isn't. We want it just gently push us out of bounds, just nudge us through the wall. Now I'm going to come up here and go to the very edge of this triangle until it thinks I'm no longer on it, and resets my gravity. I'm now standing on the edge of the triangle, so I can go through here and just crouch through the ceiling, and grab that statue. And that's how we skip a pretty big section with a pretty slow puzzle. And now the altar is just at the top of this big pillar. So we just gotta run up here. Gonna hit a quick save just in case. It's very easy to fall off here. Ooh, almost fell. So fun little trivia fact, this is the only altar that is on the ceiling. But it does not cause any difference in timing of when the portal appears. So this is the other save warp. Whoops. That one only saves maybe 10 seconds, probably less. But it's worth doing. So now another trick called box jumping. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. It's a pretty easy trick, I think. Takes a lot of practice, but once you get it, it's just a rhythm. I'm going to do it again here. So what I'm doing to do that is I stand on top of the box, I jump up, I click once to grab the box, which pulls it towards me, and then I click again to let go of the box so that it will start falling, and then I'm able to use it as a platform. The reason we have to drop it is that when you're holding it, the box doesn't have a collision with you. So it pulls in close to you into your hitbox, but does not have collision, so you have to, like, when you're looking down like that, you have to drop it so that it'll be on your feet, and then you can jump off of it again. It's a very useful thing. We use it to skip some big puzzles. Oh, bad clip. This is one of the trickier clips because basically a fling in any direction is bad. I want to go straight back, but if I get a fling straight back, I have to redo the big triangle. There is a wooden wall directly on the other side. And if I just go straight back, it will push me back and bounce. I have to go off to the side like this to get around that room. And hey, look, a statue. So that clip was kind of slow, but it wasn't that bad. Took a couple tries, but hey, gave me a chance to explain what was going on. So, now the final statue. This is another one where there aren't really any skips to get to it. It's another situation where it's just floating in the middle of a room. And so, being able to clip through walls is not very useful when there are no walls near the statue. Just a little bit of... Oh yeah, this level, I guess I should mention, introduces these wooden walls, this here. You cannot draw triangles on wooden walls. If you can see my cursor, it turns red when I go over them to let me know that I cannot draw there. But luckily you can place triangles that are big enough to ignore all the wooden parts of that hallway and climb straight up here. So there's an alternate strat here where instead of pulling these tiles out, I can just drop right on them, but it's kind of RNG because the tiles break apart into little chunks, and the number of chunks and how they move is all just random. And also it makes jumping out of that hole after you grab the statue very awkward, so it's a little bit risky to do. So you're leaving it up to fate whether you save time doing it or not. That's chapter 7 done. That's one of the trickier chapters, I always feel, and I did okay there. The clip didn't go great, but overall not that bad. So, hey, guess what? We're going to clip out of bounds again. Hopefully I get the super fast strat here. This is an alternate version of another strat that was found. No, that's a bad triangle. And, okay. I have to redo both of them. That's fine. This is tricky, again. Since there's no marking on that top point, I just kind of have to have a good feel for where it goes. No, that's bad. You see the camera's jigging around a whole lot there? That makes it really difficult to place triangles where I want them to be. Because I wanted that one to be mostly level, but you saw that time that I made it, it was at a pretty severe angle, which is either not going to clip me or probably going to fling me. So the whole reason we do that clip in that specific corner is that we can drop directly onto the statue, and then when we jump off and void out, it respawns us back up top. If we go down, there are platforms there that you're supposed to use to climb up around to that statue, but if you do that, then it will respawn you down on those platforms. And so you can save a pretty good chunk of time, like 20 or 30 seconds, by just voiding out in a specific way. Okay, and then, so I hit that switch to turn off the acid. It's filling 2 rooms. One of the rooms has a statue in it, so we will need to be able to go in there without dying. And we're going to need 1 box here later on for another box jump. We'll just drop it down there. That ding means I got it in the hole. which is kind of good and bad. On one hand, I needed to go in there anyway, but on the other hand, it can get in there and bounce around, and you can lose time if you're not sure where the box is, or if you have to go out of your way to grab it. So this is a very old strat, where we drop off the edge very carefully and grab that statue on the way down. You're supposed to climb onto the underside of that whole platform and walk around to it, but it's fine. This is what I was talking about. The box is way over here. I need it over here. So I'm gonna do a specific spot and then jump. Nope, messed that up. Messed up the timing of my jumping. There we go. So yeah, the timing on that is very tricky. It takes a lot of practice to get, but it's just a rhythm once you get it. Not so bad. And now, done with chapter 8. That's another relatively tough level. It's got some tricky strats with the clip at the start and the box jump. Alright, on to chapter 9. Another tricky level, because we have some very cool out of bounds strats. But before we do that, we have to climb up and hit some buttons. So, this is the level that teaches you about beams of light. Have a beam of light, it hits a crystal, the thing activates. And here we see boxes interrupt the beam of light, so don't let boxes be in the way. And here, see, sometimes the crystal is not even attached to the pedestal. Someone just left that crystal lying around. And then finally, sometimes you don't want them in the way, so you gotta block them. And hey, look at that, you got rewarded with the statue. Good job. Good job, everybody. We did it. So now we're going to drop all the way back down, which is not what they want you to do. But they don't want you to do this either. We're going to clip through this wall. Another tricky one because the lighting here is real bad. But it's not so bad. And now, going to be in a little bit of platform between these areas. Ooh, there we go. Triangles have a maximum size and you can't draw them larger than that. So that was what's going on there. That's basically on the limit of how big a triangle can be. And now we've dropped down and skipped a pretty massive section of the level. Just dropping down and grabbing that thing. So now, there's this pit of acid. I hate this room. There's a clip here we're going to do, and hopefully it goes well. I'm going to place a very specific triangle here. And another specific one here. I have pretty particular lineups there, because this is a tricky wall to clip through. That's not good. I launched... There's a launch here you can get that will launch you upwards into the room that you want to go to. But if you just get launched straight back, then you'll just void out. I'm going to redo this big triangle because it does not seem to be working out for me. Okay, so right there, halfway there, about 3/4 of the way there. And now I make a second triangle here, and hopefully you'll just nudge me out and not launch me away like that. Oh, that almost had enough height to get me into the room. Not quite. I got my feet on top of it, which meant that it was just angling me weirdly. And hey, look at that, we got the launch. That's a version of that launch that you would want to get. I would have liked to get it about 30 seconds ago, but that's not so bad. So, grab the statue, and now, the problem is since we clipped in here, the door is locked, so we can't get out that way. So we're gonna have to find our own way out. Luckily, there are so many corners here that we can clip through, like that one. And hey, look at that, we're back where we came from. Those crystals, they're supposed to be lit up. That's what opens up a lot of doorways for you, but don't worry about it. We're out of here. There are whole sections of this level that we skip, and it's fantastic. It's a pretty difficult level. It's one of the hardest, I think. But it's very cool just how much we skip in there. So, chapter 10. So we start with this infinite hallway here. It's like Portal, and you just put a portal above you and below you and just fall forever. Ugh. Oh no, I missed the crate. That's fine, I'll just catch it on the way down. So I'm going to want to draw a second thing to block this off completely, because I'm going to come through here a second time shortly. So, this is not where you're supposed to go first, but it's... well, you could. It's not really what they want you to do, though. So, I'm going to block this light beam to lower some of these fences. Block that one. I have to get rid of that one. And now there's this double gate here. Seems like it'll be tricky to get through, but I've got a plan. So you make a triangle like that, and then you block this one. One is going up, one is going down, and you can just run straight over them. Got a little caught on the second gate there, because it goes down pretty slowly. There was a crystal there, you're supposed to grab that and put in a pedestal for a light beam to activate, but we don't need it. We've got some pretty good strats to skip it. Now the thing about this level is there is a way that you can get a box and jump up this sphere to this statue and skip everything I just did. It would save so much time. Unfortunately, it is exceptionally difficult. I've done it a couple of times, but never in an IL. So I don't even have like a full video to show of the route that it would do. Someday I will grind out that IL. So here's skipping that crystal basically. See the pedestal over there on the left is where it's supposed to go. Now since you can't see walls from the back side of them, you have to draw a bunch of triangles on the ceiling here, so that when I come up here, I can grab this statue. I'm actually going to play it safe here. There's this gap here that I could potentially fall through. And now we come over here and get the final piece of the try. So this lets us reflect light beams with triangles. Like that. And hopefully like this. Yeah, look at that. I got it without even looking. Some pretty basic reflections here. The game has some pretty complicated reflections later on, and this is one of the reasons why this game can be a pretty hard speedrun, is it's very difficult to do some of the reflections fast. Alright, red means dangerous. So there are white light beams that are fine and good, we love them. And there are also red light beams that will kill you, so don't stand in those for too long. There is the way when you stand in them. It gives you a couple seconds to get out of the way, but too long and you're toast. So you're not supposed to do this. There we go. Oh, that was perfect. That is exactly what you want out of that clip. You basically block yourself in left and right so that you don't get scooted out to either side. And then you place a triangle in the middle to push you upwards. And I just blocked a laser beam that was blocking the exit, basically. So now I'm going to do a thing called the layer clip. Which this is one of the few places we put this to use, where you just make triangles that are closer and closer to the wall you want to clip through, and eventually you should get through. Oh, I'm so close. Oh, I'm so close. Please just let me through. There we go, like that. I'm gonna hit that switch, open the gator's clip through, and lower that force field so that I can grab the statue. And now we're just gonna void out, because that's the fastest way to get back to where we're gonna go. Oh no. Oh no. Load autosave. Where is the autosave here? Oh, it's right here. I placed that triangle incorrectly and didn't actually block the laser beams. Let's make sure I blocked them this time. There we go. Alright, now the intended way to navigate this room is to climb along the walls like this. It's kind of the only way to get over to this other section where another statue is. You can get out of bounds, and if you could get a consistent fling, you could potentially get over here, but we have not been able to find any consistent fling strats. So shoutouts to some guy on YouTube who just saw my speedrun and said, hey, by the way, you can do that room in one triangle. I thought, well, that's awesome. And he was right, look at that. You're supposed to have to bounce this light beam all around the place and have it hit the crystal at a bunch of points as it rotates around. If you just place one very specific triangle, you can reflect it back just enough to open the doors long enough to run through. And I have no idea if this is the intended strat or not, but it's what I've always found, and it's what works. Get over to this last wall. And there's gonna be one more clip to get through here. This is one of the levels that is just super broken. You don't do like any of the puzzles the intended way. This one you're supposed to just use triangles to block the laser beams and keep you out of the acid. But also, there's just a pane of glass here. So what if you just clip through it? We don't want to clip all the way through it, so I'm just gonna like poke my face through and then, I don't know, grab the statue with my teeth, I guess? And now we're out of the way. And if you remember back at the beginning of this level, I blocked a laser beam. Laser beam blocks that specific hole. So just put this box on this switch and set it up, because the hole to get through this wall is in the middle. So we put on that switch and the hole goes up like that. And there's the altar and we're out of here. That wasn't that bad of a level. The layer clip took a little bit of time, but it's not that bad. So now chapter 12, which is one of the shortest chapters in terms of the full levels, not including, you know, chapter 1, which is all of 20 seconds. This one's going to be about a minute and a half, hopefully. Normally, if you do it the intended way, it is at best a 12.5-minute long auto-scroller. It introduces the kami, which are the little ball of light that you might see bouncing through the level. Okay, there we go. I'm out of bounds. It's a tricky clip to do because you're setting up your own corner, which means it's very easy to clip through things you don't want to go through. Oh no. Let's see that again. Instant replay. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna drop down here. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm sliding around. The problem is I'm standing on a wall, which is only 1 pixel wide, and so I'm not quite on that pixel just right. And so I was sliding off to the side. Alright, now I'm going to carefully fall onto the top of this yellow barrier. Again, yellow barriers, you cannot clip through them, but you can clip around them. I love this level because it puts the altar and all 3 of the statues you need right here at the start. So look at that, a statue. And hey, look, the altar. A second statue. And oh look, a 3rd statue. So we do that clip at the start, do some platforming, hit some switches, grab all the statues, and we're out of here. Yeah, about a minute and a half for that level is a good time. Alright, now chapter 13. This is one of the least broken levels because our main method of breaking things is by clipping through walls. And as you can see, this level doesn't have a lot of walls. So there's not a whole lot we can do here. We still find some ways to skip some things, save little bits of time, but it's mostly going to be a whole lot of platforming very quickly. So, teleport over to here. And flip through here. All kinds of weird gravity shenanigans going on in that first section. You hear those kami that were introduced in the last level. It's gonna be one of the few times we actually use them for something in the run. Now, this is one of the clips we do. Let me through? Nope, not let me through. The nice thing about this one triangle method that was found recently is that you can know pretty quickly if you're gonna get the clip or not. There we go, I got it. Got the fast fall and grab the statue. Excellent. You can play it safe there and land on the platform, but that, you know, it's much faster to just fall straight down because of the way the momentum builds. You can get going really fast if you just fall all the way down, but it makes it tricky to grab the statue. So I hope you like platforming because that's all this next section is. There are all these cubes floating here. I'm going to be jumping from one to the next. Before we can head over to the next puzzle with a statue behind it, we have to make a little diversion over here to the side, jump onto these wooden crates and scatter them. So now, as those things all collide with each other and bounce all over the place, they're going to start floating around the level, as they don't have any gravity. They're in 0G. And as they do that, they will start respawning at particular points around the level. And we need one of them to boost us up after this puzzle, so hopefully they will void out and respawn somewhere in time for us to need one. So another little puzzle with bouncing kami around to get him into receptacles. This one actually requires some timing, but we can mostly skip it if I am very careful and don't go too far into that cube. When I void out here, I'll be back up top. If you go inside that cube at all, then when you void out to jump out, it will respawn you down at the bottom. You have to climb back up. And so the crates, we got bad luck with the scatter. There we go. I don't know if it actually helps or not, but I run back and forth there. It makes me feel good. It might just be a placebo effect. I have no idea. Maybe the game knows that I'm waiting on the crate and it's going to respawn one quicker. Maybe it doesn't, and it's just a myth. Who could say? So, one more platforming. Get down here. Oh yeah, by the way, this level introduced invisible walkways. We kind of ignored it in the first section because it's not a big deal. But it's a kind of a clever idea. You use triangles to figure out where the platform is. And there's a secret statue off to the right there. It's very far off to the right. You can't even see it from here because they've hidden it behind a wall. So now I think this is an unintended method of doing this. I'm pretty sure. There's an invisible wall that goes up along this pillar and kind of bends outward towards the stuff behind us. But I'm going to crouch here and I'll be underneath the invisible wall so I can draw directly on this pillar, which you're not supposed to be able to do, seemingly. And so this will let me get up to the top of the pillar and get on top of that invisible wall, and it makes getting onto the next section of level just a little bit easier than doing it from the underside. I'm going to stay crouched here because that is a crate respawn point, and if a crate respawns on top of you, it just shoves you out of the way, and you can do that very violently and void you out. And specifically with that spot, if you void out too far to behind you, it'll respawn you back at the beginning of the level. It'll think that you're near the start and you just like fell off, and go, oh well, here you go, back at the beginning with you. And that'd be a real bummer. Have to walk of shame all the way back here, or loadish save, I guess. So we're gonna go in here. There's a cool reflecting puzzle in here, and we're just gonna completely ignore it. Instead, we're gonna clip out through this corner. Hopefully quickly. There we go. And hey, look, a statue. It's behind two wooden gates that we cannot normally clip through. This is another thing we're talking about with the crates being able to shove you out of the way. Respawning here is not nearly as bad. It just puts you back on this platform, but it is a time loss. There's normally 3 or 4 crates that'll respawn, and they all can potentially shove you out of the way, so you have to be careful to get out of there quickly. Okay, and now we just drop back down onto the invisible platform. Don't worry about it, it's totally safe. I did not just land inches away from death. And we're out of here. That was a pretty good level. That was not that bad for chapter 13. On to chapter 14. Out of 17 total. 16 in an epilogue, technically, but, you know, 17 levels. So this was actually the place where we discovered clipping, where we figured out how to do it. And this is the exact spot where we did it. This is not the exact method we did, but this was one we soon discovered. It is called the tilt clip, where you place this triangle under you and use it to tilt yourself backwards and kind of pushes you through the wall. It is extremely consistent. It is one of the most consistent clips in the game. I love it a lot. And it skips a pretty annoying and long puzzle. So here's this yellow cube. It goes with the yellow teleporter. Wherever the cube is, when you run through that teleporter, you are teleported to the cube's position. That is important because the cube can pass through walls that you cannot. We'll need that later. Speaking of passing through walls, let's pass through a wall right here. Oh, I got it quickly. I just run straight across this gap. Don't worry about it. And now I need to hold the switch down to open up the gate. I'm going to need something to put here. You know, there are those pots underneath, but they're kind of round. So, you know, they might like roll around off that switch, so I'll just, you know, be careful. I'll place it down very gently. Hopefully it won't roll around anywhere. Oh god, it broke and there's a bug inside. It's a little eyeball monster. Oh, that's terrifying. I'm out of here. I'm scared. Okay, the eyeball monster behaved. It's possible the eyeball monster can move around and get off the switch and close the gate. It can also break through your triangles and make you have to redo that whole thing. It's some weird RNG in the run, but hey. We got through there just fine. And hey look, there's that cube I was talking about earlier. So we go to the underside of the level. I'm gonna run over here. Do a quick save. I'm gonna just take it a little bit slow here, make sure I get that throw. If you miss that throw, it is a huge time loss. It is like a minute and a half or something. So I'm very careful about it. And now for Laser Hallway, which up until recently was a nightmare. Now it's only kind of a nightmare. It's just a bad dream. I have to take this laser beam, which is a red one, so it'll kill us if I stand in it too long. And I have to reflect it around, hit 3 other crystals, bring it back down here, hit the 4th crystal, and then that'll open up a gate. The reason I have to do this, it is absolutely required, is because there's also a force field around the altar. Just slightly like that. There we go. So there's a force field around the altar. It cannot clip through it. And so we have to do this puzzle to get rid of that force field. So I'm going to draw some specific triangles here. It's just as platforms for me to stand on the way back. Okay, and some very specific triangles. This is really tricky to do because if any of these are off even a little bit, then it can have kind of a domino effect. Okay. But we got there. Now we need one more here. And here's where we kind of stop having to route it out, and it's just like, just kind of gotta wing it to some degree. That sound was the eyeball monster moving off of the switch and making the thing move around. I'm glad that didn't happen when we were leaving. Okay, that'll be good enough. I have to bring it back down here. I just want to do something like this. Okay. Try and get it not right there. That'll do. So yeah, this part is you have to improvise still, but it's much better than before when you had to improvise the entire thing. And it was a nightmare. This is not the best section of this that I've done ever. Oh, come on, so close. There we go. Laser hallway completed. A little bit slow, but hey, we got there. And now we just have to run through. Luckily with this new strat, it keeps it mostly in the middle, so we don't have to worry about dying as we run through. With old strats where you're just winging it the whole time, it was very risky to run back through there. So now we use that teleporter. So that yellow gate right there, you cannot run through, but the yellow cube can. And so we have to throw that through that gate to get down into here. It's on the way to the final statue. There's technically a clip to skip this, but I've not been able to find a particularly consistent setup, especially compared to how quick that reflection is to do. It does, so it saves maybe 10 seconds maybe, but like I said, it's tricky to do and there's some weird platforming involved. So now I'm going to do a weird box jump here. I did not get it. So the crates have gravity to the wall, whereas ours gravity is not there. I'm gonna hit that switch to reset the boxes. So the box jumping you saw me do earlier is pretty different from what I'm doing here. Please just get up. Okay, there we go. Good enough. It's not how that's supposed to go, but it was good enough to get us through there. And now we get out here. Grab the statue, don't forget it. We're very high up. This is another place where you can technically use a box jump to go from down here all the way to up there, but it is exceptionally difficult. It is probably the hardest trick in the game. I've never actually done it, so it's only theoretically possible. Now, here's the altar. No force field around it, so we're out of here. 2 more real levels left, plus an epilogue. 15. It's a very cool level. Has a lot of cool mechanics, and we're going to skip almost all of them. So first there's this level. It introduces the blue cube, which shares your gravity. So you need to place it on that switch and then not have it fall off as you move your gravity around to exit the room. But we clip out of the corner instead. And we're out of here. We're going to go through that room a second time. You'll see soon. So this level is a collection of planetoids, each with their own gravity and own set of puzzles to do. This is the first one and probably the hardest. Oh, first, there's a teleporter in here to get us to the proper area. We have not teleported. It didn't show anything, but we did. So, we clip out of bounds here, and then drop onto this platform, move off to the right, because there's actually walls that'll push us back in bounds if we don't. And now we're in the cylinder room. We have skipped a whole section of the level, and an entirely unique mechanic, using a large light beam that is physical, that you can stand on. So you have to use that as a platform to get across some pits of acid and stuff, and you're supposed to use it to climb up to get up to this statue, but we're just gonna go up to the ceiling and miss it on the way down. That's why I made the save here. Oh no. Okay. Make sure I'm standing properly. When you reload, sometimes it can get a little wonky with where it thinks you are versus where you should actually be. Get out of here, cube. We don't need you. It's another implementation of the blue cube of put on the button in the middle of the room, but a more extreme version of that. So now I'm going to do the cylinder clip. This is a little tricky. I might get it now, or I might have to make more triangles. There we go, I got it. Now you got to launch. You don't want to launch there, technically, but there's that section of the level. And you're not supposed to be able to void out there, so it just doesn't know what to do with you, and it just drops right back at the beginning of the level. So we're going to do the same clip that we did at the start and get us out of here. That was good. It just gently nudged us out so we could drop down at our leisure. So that was all for just the first statue. 2 more to go. This level is pretty long, both casually and in the speedrun. It's one of the longest, I think. So now I'm going to be very careful, oh boy, about this thing, because our gravity is to the core of this planetoid. And so, as you might imagine, if we fall off while we're in the middle of it, we're just going to start spinning around. And then you basically just have to blow to save. You can get yourself unstuck, build some triangles and catch yourself, but it's tricky to do. Luckily, we didn't have to even worry about that. So it's the inside of the planet, but our gravity is just straight down now. Where our gravity is outward, but the boxes are straight down. And the statue is floating in the middle of the room, so pick up this crate, drop it down on the statue, grab it, and go. And see, the edge of the room is covered in triangles. There's one pentagon at the top of the room, and that's how you know where to go to stand. Alright, one statue left. This is probably my least favorite part of the level. It's called Ghost Cubes. That's what we've named it, at least. When I get through here to the actual teleporter, there's going to be a big, like, trellis thing. A big series of cubes here. And there are these ghost cubes floating all through it. And if a ghost cube hits my triangle, it deletes the triangle. And so I have to climb up this thing without getting my triangles deleted while I'm standing on them, or else I void out and get sent back to the bottom. So it's like trickier than it should be, but it's not particularly challenging exactly. It's mostly just a test of speed, of how fast can you draw your triangles. There we go. So I've got a pretty consistent path that I take up, drawing specific triangles and waiting for timings on the cubes moving around. And the rest of this is just platforming. It makes it look difficult with all of the wooden stuff here. They're like, oh, you can't draw triangles here, be careful. But it's fine, because you can just run and jump through it all. You don't even need triangles there. Alright, one section left. We need to get to the altar, but the altar is surrounded by yellow barriers. If you'll recall, those are the things that we cannot clip through. And it is surrounded on all sides. Even underneath of it. You cannot clip through the floor to get to it. So we have to do the puzzle. It is another one of the few absolutely required puzzles. I have to take the stream of kami, and bounce it into two receptacles on the ground over here. So there's kind of a route to this, and it's kind of just winging it. This isn't great. See, it's bouncing on the top of that, like, frame that I came in on. I want it more... Ugh, yuck. Got just a bad reflection coming up here. I can maybe make this work. I do something like this. I might just go back down and re-reflect this up. I'm going to do exactly that now. If the kami hits you, if they have collision with you, and can push you out of the way. The thing is, I just kind of go in the middle of these three specific spots, and then I have a place to put this one. Okay. Hopefully that's going to work better. Kind of just going in the same place. Yep, it's just doing the same thing again. Whoops. I need to pull it back up to get it going back down. Okay, I'm just going to try and work with this. This is not great, and it's not what I want. But you know, you can't always get what you want. A wise man once said, you can't always get what you want. I'm going to need something with a little bit of height over here. So that I can reflect like this. No, that's not going to work. Oh no, it's all falling apart. There we go. That's the triangle I needed. It's still in an awkward position because of how far away it is, but hey, look at that. The first one went in the receptacle, but the others did not. Dastardly, it tricked me. I've been bamboozled. Where is it landing? It's hard to tell. I need to move it this way. 1, 2. Okay. So, I've got 4 in there. Now what I'm going to do is draw a triangle to bounce the stream over here. And hopefully I can hit the other one. So if you do this fast enough, you will activate the second one before the first one wears off. We did not get it. It was a little slow, but now while that one is counting down, that one is now counting up, and they both have at least one tick on them at the same time, and it'll lower the platform and bring the altar down to us. So that was a that's called split commie. You're supposed to use the big rotating half circle in the background to actually split the stream of commie, but we have strats to avoid that. Normally it's a lot faster than that, but I was having some trouble with it. Okay, now then, this clip, when I do this in practice, I get it every time. And when I do it in runs, I never get it first try. So we're going to avoid out at the start. We have to go to the left specifically. If we go backwards or to the right, it will just reset us back to the beginning of the level. But if we do it off to the left, we void out and it sends us back here to the final puzzle in the game. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to turn on that laser beam, and there's a fox in the room. We can't see when we're in here. It's hiding from us right now, but I promise it is here. So the fox hates triangles and wants to destroy them. So I put one on the ground as bait to get it to move over here. And then I'm building this chain of triangles because the fox won't move when it sees this red beam. So I have to use the chain of triangles to block the red beam. It goes over, destroys the one on the ground, and then the laser zaps it. Don't worry, it's not dead. He's totally fine. He's just going to take a nap for a little bit. So now our friend the monk, we haven't really met him. Hello, friend. Goodbye. He's going to carry him to the altar. This is the only altar in the game not activated by statues, so it doesn't matter that we skipped literally everything else in this level. It's activated by 2 buttons. I will stand on one, the monk will stand on the other, and then that'll bring up the portal to the epilogue. So I have to build this pathway. Hopefully he is happy with it. If he thinks that the pathway is like not solid enough, then he'll just stop and stand around. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm a little worried about that third bridge, but we'll see. So normally you just let him walk over, but it's slow. So we're just gonna walk into him from behind. This is called bully strats. So you just bully him and he goes slightly faster. This saves, I think, like 15 seconds if you do it well, 10 if you don't. So it's absolutely worth doing, because otherwise you're just standing around waiting. It's not possible to push him off the edge. The game kind of stops him from moving if that happens. Okay, he was happy with this bridge. This is what I was worried about, because it was kind of clipping through the ground here. But it's fine. He's cool with it. You can, however... So you can't push him off the edge. You can, however, just delete a triangle out from under him. The game doesn't like that. It fades to black and makes you load a save. So, there we are on our buttons. And there it is. There we go. Alright, in the epilogue. There's one trick to do here. You climb up on this thing, you jump, and you get the second railing. That saves, I don't know, a quarter of a second, maybe half a second. Then you get here, and it's just a monologue for about 40 seconds while you wait. The monk talks to you. I forgot to turn the dialogue back on. Whoops. He tells you, oh, you've helped my friend, you've helped me. And spoilers for the story of Try, but the monk was actually the blue fox all along. I bet you didn't even know there was a blue fox. But yep, we've rescued the red fox. It had gone mad with power, become a god, all kinds of weird things. So yeah, this has been Try, a Friendship in Madness, beat the game, no duping speedrun. This will be about a 48-45, which is not the best time, but anything sub 50 is a pretty solid time. It's a little below average for how I've been playing recently, but that's okay. So time comes up when the stat screen pops up. Right about now. We'll split a little bit late. That's a 48-45. But yeah, you see the in-game time here says 46-25, but that's irrelevant because when you save and load, it resets the timer. So it's not particularly useful. Yeah, some fun stats are for the end. So yeah, this has been Try. This is for marathon submission, so hopefully this gets into whatever I'm submitting it for. You know, shout outs to the community, Rainius and Flagel Stan and Mr. Mopey and Amaranth and Zerg Queen and Unbarring Slinky. They've all helped in various ways to get this run to where it is now. Yeah, thank you for watching.